In this tutorial, I'd like to demonstrate how to turn DC motor with encoder and potentiometer into game controllers for sim racing using Arduino Micro. More details, as well as link to my GitHub repository for this project, I'm putting in the description below this movie. So let's start with the hardware. What I'm using is a DC motor with encoder. An encoder is a very important part because it is telling you whether or not the shaft is rotating. You can tell if your engine has an encoder by the number of wires that stick out of the engine. So normally you would have two wires for powering up the engine, but if you have encoder, you will have, in my case, 6 wires. So 2 for signals, 2 for powering up encoder, and 2 for powering up engine, which we will not use in this example, because we will not power up the engine for the purpose of this project. Next item you will need is Arduino. It has to be specific Arduino. It needs to have Atmega 32U4 chip on it, so it could be either Arduino Pro Micro or Arduino Leonardo. I'm using Arduino Pro Micro. The last bit we need is a potentiometer. We will use this for a throttle. So let's follow this simple schematics and let's connect everything together now. Now let's open Arduino IDE and let's have a look at the code. Everything, so code is available on my GitHub page, so you can download the complete project from there. So what you need for this to work is a joystick library. You can download this library using link I placed in the comment section next to the include statement within the code. And once you download this repository, you have to place joystick folder within the folder where Arduino is looking for libraries. So usually it is documents, Arduino, libraries, and in this destination you have to place the joystick folder. We can reference to this library from our sketch either by typing it in include statement or by selecting this library from the list here. In this project we are using interrupts, so it does matter which pins we choose for the signal input. Not every pin on the Arduino supports interrupts, so verify which pins you can use before you start hooking up the cables. In my case, I'm using pin number 2 and 3 for encoder signals. Now let me explain how encoder works and how we can use output from the encoder to get our steering wheel working. There are 2 signals that we can read from the encoder. Signal A, yellow cable, and signal B, white cable. Now signal A will have value of 1 or high for the duration of 2 cycles. So cycle 1, value 1, cycle 2, value 1. And for the next 2 cycles, we'll have value of 0. So cycle 3rd, 0, and 4th cycle, also 0. Now let's have a look at signal B. So signal B is shifted comparing to signal A. Now what we can use this for is to determine which direction engine is turning. So if you look at signal B, in the first cycle we'll have value of 0, and in the second cycle this value will change to 1. We can use that property to call interrupt functions. So whatever signal B or A will change, appropriate interrupt functions will be called. So in this example, B has changed from 0 to 1. So this function will be called. And value of A is equal to B, because we have 1 in signal A and B and 1 in signal B. So that will give us value of 1. This increments encoder variable and gives clockwise direction. If you analyze this signal further, you will notice that when we turn anti-clockwise, we will get negative values. Now, once we have this working, let's go to the control panel and see if our device is visible there. Let's go to the control panel, devices and printers, and our Arduino Micro should be visible here. We can check settings. We can even run a small test to see if device is working properly within X and Y axis, like so, like you can see on the screen at the moment. So once we know device is working, then we can test it in game. In this example, I'm using Assetto Corsa, and I'm going into settings, controls, and you can see at the left bottom of the screen, Assetto Corsa recognized Arduino Micro as input device. I can now assign controls. So for my steering wheel, I need to click on steering and move right and left the engine, and then throttle, I will move my not encoder but my potentiometer to get throttle. I can even assign the same potentiometer as brakes. So once the potentiometer is centered, the engine will be idle, but if I go right, it will throttle up. If I go left, it will brake. So we can steer or drive our car with only one potentiometer. So that's the end of this video. If you want to check how the whole setup works, you can check my first video where I show how I drive the car with this setup. So thank you for watching.